Hey booktube, it's Jackie. How's it going? If you are new to me, it's the first time you're seeing this face. Hello, what's up? My name's Jackie. I sit on my floor and I talk about books. So I hope that's why you're here, because that's what's going to be happening today. If you're not new to me, thank you for always tuning in, the continued support. I really do appreciate it. So today for you, I have my weekly wrap up. This is from October 23rd through October 29th and all my reading shenanigans in between. And honestly, this week was set up to have a lot to talk about this week, but this week just got away from me. In an instant, it was gone. I had 3 back-to-back basketball games, not to mention I also had a Halloween party on Saturday, and I've also been trying to set up plans for my anniversary, which is on Halloween. So this week just got away from me. But I do have a few completed books to talk about, plus 2 that I have started. So we do have some stuff to talk about, just not as much as I had originally planned. So without further ado, grab yourself a drink, have yourself a seat, and let's get talking some books. Okay, so we're just gonna dive right in. The first book I have to talk about is a completion from last week. It was a carryover, and that is King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett and Clair. I finished this at the beginning of this week, and it stayed at a 4-star. It did not bump up to a 5-star. I was a little disappointed about that because Scarlett and Clair is one of my faves. I love her. I actually have a vlog of me meeting her. I will link it in the little card over here in the corner, so you guys can check that out. But this book, maybe it was just me, maybe it was because I was comparing it to Hades and Persephone. It didn't hold as strong as Hades and Persephone, but it was still a 4-star and it was still a great book. It just wasn't what I was expecting. I was really hoping for a little bit more. But this is the first installment in the Adrian and Isolde series. I don't know if it's just going to be a trilogy. I guess it's just going to be a series from what I've gathered. We have graphic content and language. We also have a trigger for body horror, and we have kind of like a fated mate trope going on. It's very loose fated mate trope, but the body horror triggers are primarily for anything to do with eyes and burns. So if you are squeamish about things being done to eyeballs or, popped out, and, burn marks or things being done to the human flesh, be a little leery of this. It's not to the point where I think it's horrible. It's not described so graphically that it makes you take a step back. It's in there. And I kind of would have liked to know about the eye thing, because that is a trigger for me. Actually, I can handle a lot of shit. I can handle a lot of crap. But you want to kind of make me go, ugh. Do shit with people's eyes. Every fucking time. Every time. But let's get into this book. So the summary, we have Isolde de Lara marrying Adrian Alexander Vasiliev, who is the Blood King. And she's marrying him to end a years-long war. But when she goes to marry him, she is tasked with trying to kill him because she can get so close to him. The assassination attempt is stopped, and Adrian threatens her to raise her as the undead if she ever tries it again. So she's like, never mind, I'm not gonna try this again. Thanks for playing. But after that assassination attempt, she begins her journey to the vampiric court. And this is where she starts to have a lot of internal conflicts with herself, because she not only does she have to learn how to survive in the vampiric court, but she is starting to see that her own people, who she willingly went into this marriage to save, because he was either going to slaughter the village, slaughter her kingdom, or she could marry him and save her people. So she sacrificed herself and married him, and she thought her people would understand the sacrifice, what she was doing, but they started to turn on her. So now she has this internal conflict of, I have been raised my entire life to hate this group of vampiric people and this kingdom, but now my own people are turning against me because I tried to help them. So we have a lot of these internal struggles with Isolde throughout this book, and then we start to learn throughout this journey that there is a deeper connection between Adrian and Isolde. There is stuff that's happened in the past that we are not aware of. And it is starting to come through in their intimate scenes, in their dialogue, in their actions towards each other. A lot of really tangible chemistry. But Adrian knows, Isola does not. You are very aware that that is a thing. And it's a ride. It is a ride. I really enjoyed this. I had a good time with it. What worked in this book? The original plot. As part of the surrender, he will take her as his wife, and then her dad entrusts her to kill him. I thought that was great. Great for a fantasy book. I thought it was awesome. I had zero issue with that plot, but I'm really glad that even though the original plot definitely got veered from, when it got veered from, it still was brought back. It had a full circle effect. So we didn't lose that original plot point. It still came back, but in a different format towards the end of the book, and I thought that was really, really cool. The way Scarlett St. Clair wrote this internal struggle with Isolde and her people. Isolde, there's so many internal dialogue moments with Isolde because this is told entirely from her point of view. Well, it's an omniscient point of view, but it's primarily, her story. And it's really interesting when you're in her head how she's trying to rationalize things. She tries so hard in the beginning of the book to rationalize why her people would turn on her, other than the fact that they're fucking horrible people. And you see the way that the vampiric people are towards her. And she's trying to rationalize that they're just being good, decent people because they're trying to lure her. They're trying to kill her. The struggle that she's going through, trying to break down what she's been raised her entire life to believe to what she's physically experiencing, it was excellent. Scarlett St. Clair did a fantastic fucking job with that. She does it really well in Touch of Darkness as well, but you get to see it a lot more in this book because we have an entire lifetime of being raised within this very narrow mindset of this one group of people, when she has actually never met any of these groups of people before. So I thought that was really, really interesting. The chemistry between Adrian and Isolde, that shit. God, it was fucking great. It is there. It is there. It is strong. It is there. It is in your face. But just by the way she writes it, that there is more to it. It's not just an insta-lust connection. When we first get introduced to Adrian and Isolde, when they first meet each other, he recognizes her. She doesn't recognize him. And then the confrontation happens where her father is going to surrender the kingdom to prevent bloodshed, and Adrian sees her and says, well, I'll take her as a wife. And she automatically thinks it's because of her appearance. And the way he speaks to her, he says, well, it's not bad, but I never wanted a wife until I saw you. And she's seeing it as he only wants her because of her physical appearance. But the way he is looking at her isn't at her, he's looking at her. Like, he's looking at her, seeing her, and she can feel this. And the way it was written, it was just fucking fantastic. Oh my God. And the way he talks to her like he's known her his entire life. She does not talk to him like that. And it's just, Scarlett St. Clair walked that line so fucking well. Oh my God, it was great. 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 And then we have all the twists and turns in this book, because there was twists that I wasn't seeing. And then the big climax twist, I was like, oh, this is a thing. This is a thing. I was right. And this thing is awesome. This big turn, you have an idea of what it is. You start to put the pieces together. It's not like a super out of left field turn. But when it's confirmed, oh, yes. I loved it. I fucking loved it. I loved it. I had such a good time with it. Even though I knew that I was right, I was so excited that I was right. I was right about it. I didn't feel like, oh, I called this story. Because she gives you just enough to make you feel like you got it right, but there's still some skepticism. Oh, it was great. I loved it. It was so good. However, I did not give this a 5-star because there are things in this book that didn't work. There are. And as much as I don't want to talk about them because I love Scarlett, I need to. Let me get the right page. Here we go. So the backstory. The backstory to Adrian. Now this is the first installment, so I'm hoping that we'll get more later on, but I needed more fleshing out of that backstory. I needed it because the big climax depends on it. And I felt like if she would have given me more of that story, that climax would have been so much stronger. It was strong, but it could have been stronger had I had more information and more pieces of this gigantic puzzle, because there's still a lot of pieces missing. So I'm not getting a super clear picture just yet. This punch at the end of this book would have been so much stronger if I had more from both sides of the backstory. And I want to specify that, both sides, because there are 2 backstories and you need both of them and you just don't get enough pieces. But Adrian specifically, I needed more. I needed more from him to get that punch where I needed it to be. I like Adrian. Adrian's character I like. I do. But he kind of was a little shady. And I didn't quite understand the reasoning for this shadiness factor, because you could clearly see that there is a connection to Isolde. And he has this human servant that he feeds from. And Isolde feels threatened by her because this woman's a bitch. She straight up is a bitch. There's no love lost there between me and her. Like, that character could die and I would not give a fuck. But Isolde says, I want you to find a new host. I want you to find a new person to feed from. And he says, okay, done. And you think it's over because he so far has kept all of his other promises. But there's moments where you see him with this female character that he feeds from. He's not feeding from her, but he's there with her, or she's present with him. And I just don't understand what his purpose for doing that was, because when the big climactic moment with that character happens, when that resolution happens, you're just like, why didn't you just do that in the fucking first place, dude? Like, why did you put yourself in a scenario for her not to trust you when you need her to trust you? You said you would get rid of her, you would find a new host. So you did, but yet you're still being seen with this one. Like, by the woman that you claim to love. It was a little unnerving about that. A little shady on Adrian's part. I'm assuming, based off of how Scarlett Sinclair writes, that will get explained later on in future installments. But right now, you kind of look like a douchebag. Just a little bit. It's just a smidge. There is a big reveal in this book. And one of my issues with this book was, how did Adrian know that Isolde was the one for this reveal? I want to know. We aren't really given any information how he knew. And maybe we're going to get that in future installments, or maybe Scarlett Sinclair is going to do another kind of dual perspective where we'll get Adrian's perspective from this book at some point in time, which would be fucking dope. That would be really, really cool. Because then maybe answer some of those fucking other questions I have about his shadiness. But when he sees Isolde for the first time, he knows that she's the one he's been looking for. But it's never said how he knows. It's just, I know you're it. well, how the fuck do you know? I want to know what the tell was. I want to know, because of this big reveal. I feel like there would have been some kind of sign or like a scar or a mark or something. When you find out what the reveal is, it makes sense to think that there's some kind of telltale mark on her or some kind of thing about her that resonates with him so he knows. And you never find out what it is. And that kind of bugged me. So I'm hoping in future installments I will learn what that piece was. Or maybe we'll get a perspective of Adrian and we will find out. Because that kind of bugs me. I want to know why. Why and how he knew Isolde was the one that he's been looking for. I want to know. Since this is Scarlett St. Clair and she does write some pretty intense sex scenes, we do have a spice rating on this one. And this is a 3 chili peppers. We have graphic language. It was on point. Loved it. Great. We also have blood play. There is, I mean, he's a vampire. So there is blood transference. There's playing with blood. All of that jazz. But the sex scenes, as hot as they were, if you have read Hades and Persephone, these sex scenes are not as strong as those. Just telling you right now. If you have never read Hades and Persephone, and this is your only experience with Scarlett St. Clair, it's a great sex scene. It is. But she does get steamier, and she does get more graphic in some of her other series. So I just want to make that a point out, because this is kind of mild for her. I mean, it's still steamy, and it's still graphic, and I love it. I was all up in it. Do not get me wrong. Loved it. But I've seen her do steamier and spicier and just more titillating, and it just didn't hit as hard. So, but all in all, 4 stars. I will be continuing with the rest of the series. The second book, Queen of Monsters, just released, so I'll be picking up soon and hopefully continue with the series quite soon. All right. The next book that I completed was my TBR jar pick of the month, which was to read a book that had green on the cover, and that was Vladimir by Julia May Jones. And I gave this a 4-star as well. This is a standalone, and I would consider this a romantic literary fiction. We do have romance in it, but it is more literary fiction than it is romance. We have triggers but we do have some triggers. Yeah, literary fiction has some triggers, and some serious ones. We have kidnapping, drugging, attempted suicide. It is past tense, but it is described in detail on page, and alcoholism and depression. So we follow an unnamed college English professor narrator as she struggles with finding out that her husband is being dismissed from the university that he teaches at due to having relations with some of his students. As well as while dealing with that, she's dealing with this really weird obsession that she is starting to develop for a new English professor at her university named Vladimir. This book centers pretty much around those 2 major instances and just her internal struggles with dealing with both of those. There are so many themes in this book. For as short as this book is, this thing is jam-packed with all different types of themes and issues and just things that an aging woman is going to deal with. And this aging woman is not like your normal aging woman professor. She deals with her struggles of her aging, her open relationship with her husband, the jealousy that she deals with youth and stronger talent because she's in a competitive environment. It is just all over the place, but it was great. I had a great time with this. This threw me for a damn loop. I walked into this book thinking I was going to get this kind of teacher, romance, large age gap with the female being older, steamy little romance. That is not what I got. At the fuck all. But I'm not disappointed about it. I'm not even upset that that's not what I got, because what I got was fucking cool as hell. What worked in this book? The issues that this book touched on. They touched on so many, but it wasn't preachy. It was just there. This is a thing. We have to deal with it. And this is how I'm having my character deal with it. And I thought that was fucking awesome. We touch on aging and how it affects our desirability and attraction to others as well as ourselves, especially in being female. At a certain age, you start worrying about the lines and the smile lines, and you start worrying how you come off and how you dress and if you're still desirable to the opposite sex. And I'm 35, and I experience things like that now. I didn't in my 20s because I'm in my 20s. It's youth, it's fun, it's free, whatever. But now I'm in my 30s. I'm just like, am I still a catch? Am I still desirable? I notice a little bit more lines here and there. Like, this book kind of scared me a little bit with that, because I was like, oh shit, damn it. Especially in today's society with, being so dominated by how you look and appear, especially for women still. It touched on it really, really well. And it was handled very, very well. It touched on issues of open relationships and marriages. That is something that has been around for a long time, but it hasn't been openly talked about. And she's actually in an open relationship and an open marriage where they are consensually being with other people. They just don't let it affect their married life. And I've never read a book where that was a thing. And I thought it was really cool the way she handled it. I thought it was dope. Touched on issues of the generalized views of things that were once back in her youth days permitted and accepted, and how they are not now. Exhibit A, her husband having relationships with students. When he had the relationships with the students, it was not prohibited by the college. It wasn't an issue. And now it is, but he hasn't had a relationship with a student once it became prohibited. These are all women coming back later saying, this was a problem. You abused your power. You took advantage, even though they were of age. They were consenting adults. It was a power dynamic and how that works. The perception of power regards to attraction. That was another issue that was touched on. It mentioned women are attracted to power. A very generalized statement. And that's why these young girls who were of age sought out their English professor, because he had a power dynamic. He was a powerful person. And that's what attracted him. He wasn't necessarily a physically attractive person. He had the power. So that's where they went. And women don't. We go for, I guess, looks is kind of the way she generalized it in this book. And I was just like, really? Wow. Like, it was just so weird how she interweaved all these really big issues that I don't really ever sit down and think about. But at the same time, when they're pointed out to me, I'm like, yeah, I actually think about that. I noticed that. When it's pointed out to me, it's clear as day, but I don't just generalize and think about, I wonder how the power dynamic between this couple works. I don't think about it, but when it's pointed out, it makes me start thinking about it. And I just love the way she did it. Some more issues, morality within art, the concept of motherhood, what really is a mother, what is her role, the complacency in a life, not desiring to push yourself anymore. You're just you reach a level where you're just like, yeah, I'm good. I'm complacent. Yeah, I could have more, but I just don't care anymore about reaching for it. And what age that really starts hitting. We also talk about drugs and addiction and suicide and depression, just a lot of issues compacted into this book. And you'd think with all those I just listed that this would just be like a bore to read. It's not. It read really smooth. It was fun to read. It was a good time. So I love the way that Jones interwove all of these really heavy topics into this pretty fast-paced, interesting read. And she did a damn good job of it. I had zero problem with it. I love the fact that she made the title character, Vladimir, so ambiguous. Like, we don't really get a lot. We get a physical description of him and some personal characteristics. But other than that, he's a pretty much flat character, which you'd think he's the title character. Why would you make him flat? It was great because he was a springboard for all these internal dialogues of the narrator. And it was fucking cool because you're clearly seeing it and you don't give a shit. You're just like, all right, cool. Yeah. All right. Nice. I loved it. I didn't even really give a shit about Vladimir. He could have been just any guy. But it's what he caused her to start thinking about. And I just thought that was fantastic. I was like, yes. That was a great literary tool that I don't see used often enough. And it's something that's kind of cool to use. Oh, one thing in this book that completely threw me for a loop. And I kind of sat there and was like, what in the fuck? But when I actually sat down and like broke it down in my head to write my notes, I was like, this is brilliant. The comparison of a male perception to a female perception of fantasies, and how they can be misunderstood. There is a scene where Vladimir and our narrator are together and they're getting slightly intimate. And he says, "Professor, I've been bad." And she fucking loses her shit. Because that's not what she wants. She wants to be wanted and desired. And he thinks because she brought him here that she wants to role play this dominating female power figure and he's the lowly little student. And it's completely misread. Because the way she had Vladimir perceive our narrator, and our narrator perceived Vladimir. Our narrator perceived Vladimir as a intellectual, like-minded author. She didn't have to teach him anything. He already knew what to do. So in her mind, he was an equal, and that's why she responded to him. In his mind, she was the naughty professor, and he was the lowly little student. It was so cool. And then when they had the conversation, he said, "Well, you brought me here. I thought that was the role you wanted me to play." And she's like, "No. Why would I think that?" "Well, because you're 58 and I'm in my 30s. It just, when I read that, I was like, oh shit. Oh my God. I'm not 58. I'm only 35. But I know what it feels like to have your other person that you're being intimate with not read your cues and read you the way you think you're reading them, and vice versa. And then that really awkward moment where you're like, we actually don't understand each other. So either we're going to sit down and talk about it and then do this, or this is just not going to happen. And I thought that was great because that shit happens all the fucking time. Men and women fantasize about different things and fantasize about people in different formats. And it's just, I just fucking had a great time with that. I started giggling when that scene happened. I was just like, man, I know exactly how that fucking feels. That misunderstood fantasy. I get it. I completely get it. I love the fact that this author had no fear of creating a character that you didn't like. Our narrator is unnamed. You never find out her name. And there's a lot of times in this book, you do not agree with what she's saying. You're just like, really? You're going to defend that? You're going to do this? Oh, this is happening. This is happening. Okay. This is, whoa. I did not really care for the main narrator majority of the time. I did not agree with half the stuff that she said or half of her beliefs. But I like the fact that the author was not afraid to piss me off. I love it when authors are not afraid to piss me off. It shows guts, and I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed that aspect so much. And then the big reveal at the end of this, when I realized what this book was. I feel like this book was almost like a memoir. I don't think this is the author's story, but it feels like a story that she knows. So maybe it's a friend of hers story or a colleague's of her story, but it feels so, just some of the things that happen in it feel so real and so specific that I feel like this is a story that she is very, very familiar with. And when I got that at the end of the book, I was like, yeah, okay, I get it. And it made this book 10 times better once I realized what was going on. And I may be completely off base on it, but I feel like this is a story that was either lived by our author, knows someone who personally did this, or this is a combination of stories among some of maybe her colleagues that she's grouped together to formulate this unspoken character, this unnamed character. So I thought it was really well done. However, there was some things that didn't work in this book. The speed of the ending. The ending, all the shit happens. Like, you have this really slow burn with all these, like, themes and coming out, and at the very end, you're just like, bam, 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 it's all done. What? Oh, it's over now? Okay, well, that was a really fast fucking ending for a kind of a slower starting book. That was not fun. That was not a good time, because all the action and all, like, the intrigue happens at the end of the book. So if you're looking for, like, the steamy scenes, the action, the drama, that's all at the end of the book, and it comes like that. And the rest of it's all this buildup of themes and ideas. So that, I kind of wish that would have been, like, maybe interspersed through, so I had, like, some, you know, it wasn't just all, like, all the shit happens at the end. There is a scene in here where our character roofies Vladimir. Straight up kidnaps him and roofies him. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, this is happening. Okay, this is a thing. This is awesome. Okay. Feel slightly awkward right now. I'm not gonna lie, I felt very awkward in that scene. I was like, okay, all right, this is happening. And then it leads into this BDSM trial trying to cover up because he completely passes the fuck out and she can't live out her fantasy because she does have some moral conscience. So she puts him in a chair so he doesn't, like, he's not uncomfortable, and then she kind of, like, ties him to the chair so she doesn't fall out, and he wakes up tied to the chair, and to cover her ass, she's like, well, you said you wanted to try BDSM. And he buys it. What? That actually worked? That was a little far-fetched for me. I was like, okay, well, that just really worked. And then later on, they actually get together. Really? That line fucking worked. Holy shit. Okay. All right. Cool. Right. But as I say this, I read a lot of dark romance. I have not read any dark romance where the female is drugged and then taken advantage of, but I do know that there are books out there, and I know I have some that are on my shelves right now, and I will read them, and I will probably enjoy them. So I think it's really interesting that I was uncomfortable when the female was doing it, but in the interest of a male doing it, I don't feel like I would be uncomfortable. And I think that's really backwards and kind of stupid. So when I felt uncomfortable with her doing this drugging scene, I actually had to stop myself and think, like, damn, why do I feel uncomfortable with this when I don't feel uncomfortable seeing it in movies or reading it in books when males do it? And I was like, a little introspection on myself on that one a little bit. I was like, I need to change the way I'm thinking, because that's bullshit. I should be offended by both, you know? So this book kind of makes you think a little bit on the reverse, because it does. There is a lot of unanswered questions in this book. There's a lot. And I just don't like that. I don't like the unanswered questions. I'm not a fan of it. Because these unanswered questions made me feel like there was going to be, like, another level of twist happening. And it didn't happen. It just ended. I was like, okay. So you're just going to leave me here, hanging this bag, holding this bag with all these unanswered questions. That's nice. Thank you. Appreciate that. That's awesome. Fan-fucking-tastic. Great. Yeah, that annoyed me. We do have a spice scale. We do have a spice rating because we do have a sex scene. There is a lot of sexual fantasy in this book. A lot of it. But it's very mechanical in its description. It's not flowery. It's not fluid. It's like he crawled into bed, pulled my underwear off, entered me, and I said thank you, and he left. Done. Okay. There was no finesse. There was no build up. It was just a lot of fantasies, but they were all very mechanically driven. And I wasn't a fan of that. I'm not a fan of mechanical sex descriptions. I want the fire and the passion in them. That's what I need. And I didn't get that from this book at all. But all in all, I gave this 4 stars. I had a good time with this book. This book made me think about some of the views that I hold and some of the things I think about. So if you're looking for something that will kind of make you feel uncomfortable with some of your own viewpoints and point out some of your own personal hypocrisies, go for it. This book will do it. It will do it. But it would also, the way it's pointed out, it's not just a big F you. It plants the seed and then makes you think about it. So I had a good time with this. And this was her debut novel. So I think she did a bang up job. I think she did a really good job. The third and final book that I completed this week was this guy. This is Jack by Layla Fae. And I have a full vlog of me reading this book up. I will link it in the corner here. This is the first installment in the Monsters Ever After novella series. It is a monster erotica. And it's, we have a breeding kink and we've got some monster sex. And this is straight erotica, okay? This is straight erotica. There is a plot, but the plot is only driven by sex. We have Susie. She reads some tarot cards and she keeps drawing the devil's card. And so she casts this read one more time. And the way the read tells her to do is that if she casts a spell, she'll get laid by the devil, because her question was, how does she get laid? And so she's cast a spell and appears. And Jack is this pumpkin-headed guy. And once he arrives, it's just straight smut from there. It's straight pumpkin spice flavored cum and orange ribbed phalluses and stretching and pulling and numbing and forearm sized phalluses. It just, that's all. It's straight smut, guys. It's straight smut. It's a good time. It was a nice trick or treat, either way you look at it. What worked? The camp of it. I mean, they just hit every single fucking element. They have the creepy face, and this elongated tongue that comes out, and, you know, he's on fire, so he's constantly burning her, and then, you know, his dick is ribbed, and it vibrates on its own, and he comes pumpkin spice, okay? Like, it's every single campy trick you can think of thrown into this book to make it the Halloween erotica, you know, gospel, like, essentially. You know, it was a fun time. It was 45 pages on my Kindle. I read on my Kindle, and it read in an hour. Like, an hour is what it took me to sit there and read it because I was giggling so much. But it served its purpose. It served its purpose. It entertained me, and it was a good time. What didn't work? The only thing that didn't work about it was it ruined my husband's nickname. During the fall, I like to call my husband Pumpkin Spice because of a cartoon that I saw a long time ago, and it actually put in my wedding program, where it says, how do you know your husband is a pumpkin spice latte? It's like, because it looks good at Instagram pics. He's got just the right amount of spice, and some other things, but it says, but you crave him all year long. But you don't. And when I saw that, I nicknamed my husband Pumpkin Spice. So in the fall, I'm like, hey, Pumpkin Spice, how's it going? And now I can't call him because his fucking book. I can't. But this was a good time. It was, and there's a sequel. There's Jack 2. So yeah, we do have a spice rating. I mean, it's monster erotica. Like, I don't really think there's enough chili peppers for that. Like, so I'm gonna give it a 5 on the chili pepper scale because that's my ranking system. But it's straight smut. That's all it is. And there's 4 other installments to this series. So if you guys like that vlog and you want me to vlog the rest of them, just let me know and I will gladly do it because this was fun. I'm slightly scarred, but it was still a good time. And the other 2 books that I started, I just started Tower of Dawn. This is the book I should have been reading all week, but it just, like I said, it got away from me. I am not part of the live show, so it's okay, but I am in the process of working on it and working on that vlog because I was requested to do a vlog on it, so you will see a vlog of me reading this. I literally just started it. So yeah, like I've got nothing to say about it right now, so I'm just going to save all my views for my next weekly wrap up. But just, you know, I am working on it and there will be a vlog coming out on it. And the next book that I've been working on, and I've been working on all week, it's an audiobook. It's the sequel to Resurrection. This is Rebellion by Siobhan Davis. This is the second installment to the Sainthood Boys of Lowell High series. Again, it's on audiobook by Ramona Masters and Wen Ross. And Wen Ross does make an appearance in it, thank God. Not enough for my liking. I have about 3 hours left of this audiobook, and I am struggling, people. I am struggling because I do not like Harlow. I don't like the main character. I don't like the main heroine. But I have 3 hours left, and I'm just like, it's got some good twists. It has some good, you know, plot points and stuff, and I like the guys. I like Saint. I like Galen, Kaz, and Theo. I like the harem that she has. I like it. And I'm starting to learn more of the backstories with Theo and Galen. But some of the backstories I'm learning, I'm just kind of like, really? Really? I am not having a great time with this book. I'm not having a horrible time, but I'm not having a great time. And it's kind of becoming a struggle. But I want to at least finish this one. So I'm going to reserve anything else I have to say about this book until I'm done with it, because the first installment had a really good twist ending, and this is still the second installment. I still have a third installment of this. So it might pick up from here. It might just, it might. Because sometimes the second book in a series, there's a second book curse. This might be suffering from the second book curse. But Harlow is fucking great and all, man. I do not like her. I don't like her. I can't seem to get behind her yet. And I thought I could. But she's not as funny as she was in the first book. Like, she's bitchy now. So, but that's all I'm going to talk about this book. Because I want to reserve my thoughts, because I just, there's moments I like, but it's a struggle. It's a struggle, guys. All right, but that is all I have for you guys this week. So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you plan on checking out any of these books, let me know. And again, the Jack vlog will be up here in the corner, and it'll be also linked down below as well. Also, I do want to make you guys aware that I have created a book recommendations form. You can find it in my contact me links down in my down box below. It's right above it. So you guys, if there's a book that you like to see me read, or you think I should read, please send it in the request down there. I have written down all the requests that I've gotten from previous comments. So I do have those on an independent list, but this is where I'll be taking the book recommendations from now on. If that works for you guys, if there's an issue with the link, let me know. I toyed with it a little bit and it worked for me. So if you guys have issues, let me know. But yeah, I just want to let you guys know that I have a book rec form now for myself. So yeah, that's what I got for you guys today. I will see you guys all soon with another video, and you have a safe and happy Halloween. Bye, guys.